Wow. All right. Hey guys, it's Nicole and I am here with Ellen Coomber this week, and I am glad that you guys all decided to join us. So this is episode number 20 for us. So episode number 20 of Stay Wild Child. And I'm excited today because this group really, I kind of found my way, or I had the idea, or I had the epiphany, or I had the birth of this new creation at an incredible meditation retreat with Ellen. And it's just kind of like blossomed from there. I kind of just keep taking step by step forward, and it kind of just keeps blossoming. So she was a really key factor in opening my awareness, in I don't know, just kind of helping me, not like just really helping me open my mind to different ways of thinking, different ways of creating, different ways of stepping into my own personal power. And so I apologize, you're going to hear just a smidge of background noise today. The kitchen cabinet guys are here to put new cabinets in, so there will be a little bit of noise, and I apologize for that, but hopefully we can make it all through it, and it'll be good. Okay, so without further ado, this is Ellen, and Ellen, I just want you to kind of just like say hi and just kind of introduce yourself, exactly who you are, and I'm going to turn my volume up over here.
Sure. Hey, I'm Ellen. Hi, everybody. I thought I'd bring a little bit of Texas to England today in honor. Yeah, a little bit about me. I have a business called Expanding Possibilities, like Nicole put on the flyer, and thank you for such a great intro, Nicole. It's been a real pleasure to see the birth of the idea and then see what it is now. So I'm really excited that you invited me on to come and have a chat today. So yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, so I like to start with kind of the beginning. Like I think that a lot of times, so you know, you have this incredible company where, I mean, you're a success coach, you empower women all across the country, and you're from England, and you fly down and do these awesome meditation workshop retreats in Texas, and I've attended probably 3 or 4 of them at least. And we reconnected just recently because of the quarantine, and you put together a Zoom meeting that happens every single Wednesday. And I have been participating in those Zoom meetings. And so it was awesome to reconnect. It'd probably been a couple of years since you and I had connected, so it was really cool to reconnect again. But this group is all about helping women remember who they are before the world told them who they were supposed to be. I think a lot of times we can kind of get stuck in our heads of, you know, I live in a neighborhood where there's lots of young moms, and, you know, they can kind of get stuck in their heads about, you know, what is society dictating is the right mom, right? Or even like right now, you know, a lot of us are, you know, quarantined, you know, with our spouses, and what's the idea of the right relationship? You know, there's so much pressure, and to, you know, I don't know, kind of like you feel like you have to fill this role, right? Like there's so many magazines and agenda and social media that it's pressuring women to, you know, kind of like, this is what the perfect, you know, mom and wife and employee and all of that looks like. And so we can kind of get caught up in those stories. And so I know that everyone has a story before they truly start to step into who they uniquely are. So would you mind just kind of taking this back to where you were before all of this? And, you know, what is your pre-story, you know, before you decided to really start stepping into your power?
Yeah, absolutely. Before I stepped into this new life, I was working in a corporate, quite a big corporate, actually based in Texas, in San Antonio, which hence the Texas connection. But I've been working there for about 5.5 years, and it, you know, successful. Like my whole identity was wrapped up in being successful, and, you know, having the right car, the right house, and, you know, by all, you know, most standards of measurement, I was doing, you know, really well, except I wasn't really happy. Like there was something missing for me. I kept having this gnawing feeling that, you know, something was just something was missing. I wasn't really living my purpose. And I would go to like seminars and events, you know, and I'd say, you know, I want to find my purpose. And everybody would tell me, well, you know what it is, you know, just follow your heart. And I'm like, but I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. Just follow your heart, follow your heart. I was like, it got me so frustrated. Because I just knew there was something more. But my response to wanting something more was like, well, it must be more success. So let me work harder and climb higher up the corporate ladder. And be more and more successful. But in truth, I was getting further and further away from the things that I really enjoyed doing. And I call it now like the shadow career. Like I think a lot of us have this shadow career where we're doing something that's kind of in line with our truth, but it's not fully expressed in our truth. So if I look back at my career over the last, 20, 25 years, there's always been an element of it where I've been teaching and developing people and supporting people to grow. But I was doing it in all of these, more societally acceptable ways, I guess, of success and doing it. And I was actually probably closer to my truth in my 20s. I worked with young people, like young university students, and took them to the US to sell books door to door and taught them how to sell, but taught them how to manage and lead themselves. It was all around building character. And ironically, I was probably closer then than I became in my 30s. And I was just at this point where I was just, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I thought I didn't know what I wanted to do because I'd been so bogged down with all the things I thought I should be doing. And then I was lucky enough to go to a 2-day workshop with a guy called William Whitecloud, who wrote a book called The Magician's Way, who ended up becoming one of my mentors on this journey. And it was life-changing because he was the first person to say, well, of course you don't know what you want to do because you've lost all connection with your natural intuition. And he wasn't saying that directly to me, but a room full of like 100 people, but it really just landed. And I went, oh, finally, I get it. There is something more. And that really started me off on a whole journey to really connect back to myself and the truth of who I was, and let go of all of these definitions and perceptions I had around teaching and developing others. And realizing that a lot of those, and a lot for all of us, came from childhood, messages and preconceptions about stuff that I've made up and made it into this reality that wasn't actually true and wasn't actually real.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that's why you and I connected so much at the very beginning, because I know that a lot of my worth was wrapped up in achievement. So, because, when Nicole did well in, her career, well, then she got a lot of applause, right? Yeah. And so, and it's interesting. I kind of forgot about this until, I apologize. I keep muting when you're talking so that we don't hear quite as much background noise, but, of course, it's cabinet day on Monday, the day that I do my show, but hey, it is. So, but I remember, Kathy, my friend, Kathy Van Boris, she met you on an airplane. Yes. And you turned her on to The Magician's Way. And then I read that book and I'm like, I've got to talk to that girl you met on the airplane. That's exactly how it went down. And so what a serendipitous meeting. I love that, right? Magic.
It was. It's definitely a story I tell people in workshops about the magic, because I teach people to create magic, right? I teach people to create magically and effortlessly, because it doesn't have to be hard work. It's become this, badge of honor for things to be hard. You ask people, how are you? And they say, oh, I'm so busy. Like, that's a good thing. And so I love being able to teach people how to stop being busy, which is really just an egoic addiction, and learn how to create effortlessly and magically. And that's, I don't know if you have time for it today, but that is a wonderful story, how I met Kathy. It's a beautiful example of magic in action.
It absolutely is. And then, and then I start going to your workshops, and I start working with you one-on-one. And then you have, this meditation workshop in, it was New Braunfels area, right? We were on the river. Yeah, we were on the river. And, I had not really done a lot of, I'd never done group meditation before. So you were my first. So to do these group meditations and these workshops, and, everyone really unlocking just really unlocking, like, so you said, say that statement again, Ellen. It wasn't that it's not what your heart desires. It was about creating magic. Is that what you said? What William said to you?
Yeah, it was around the fact that we'd lost the connection with our intuition.
Ah,
I think Einstein said it best. He said, intuition is a gift and the rational mind a faithful servant. But we've created a society that's forgotten the gift and honors the servant. And,
right.
we've lost that. We haven't lost it, it's there, but we've lost the ability to naturally tap into it. Our intuition, our superconscious, as we call it, is talking to us all the time, giving us the information that we need to live our truth. And it's that little, tap, tap, tap. But it's very subtle. And, most of us is so, the noise of our ego, of our thoughts and our feelings that we believe are true, believe are real, believe are the truth of life is so loud it drowns out everything else. So it's learning how to turn the volume down on that and turn the volume up on our intuition and
Right.
live guided by that, which taps us into the magic.
Yes, it totally does. And I remember, I remember so clearly, I had this, vision of me on the back of my dad's motorcycle, kind of like with my hands up in the air. Cause I remember riding on the back of my dad's motorcycle and I would sing that song. I'm on top of the world and looking down on creation. It's that Karen Carpenter song, And so I was on the back. I remember that. And I was like, that girl, that like your inner child, like, I've forgotten, right? Like I've gotten so stuck in doing what I felt people wanted me to do that I forgot about her. And I just wanted to remind everybody, like, the little girl is still there, and we just like this reconnection piece. And I didn't exactly know what Stay Wild Child would turn into, and I still don't. It's still unfolding, but I just keep moving forward. So let's talk about, when I messaged you, I said, if you have any talking points that we might want to talk about a little bit. And I loved what you came back with. You said, people most often tell me that they don't know what they would love. Mm-hmm. That's what unlocking the cage is about. So talk just a little bit about that, because it's true. It's like, we get so busy. Mm. What is unlocking the cage?
Yeah. So the way I say it, I call it, like, we're all in this cage, as I call it, right? We are all, limited and locked down by our constraints that we think that we have, the assumptions we have about ourselves, the guilt we have about what we should be doing or shouldn't be doing, and those expectations that we have of others, or this we think society places on us. And it puts us in this space where we don't feel we can even know what we want, right? Because most often I talk to people and say, I help people understand what they want or get what they want, create what they want. People say, but I don't know what I want. And it's because it's easier for us to not know what we want than it is to handle the pain of knowing what we want and not thinking we're going to be able to have it. Like, it causes tension. And majority of people don't like living with tension. They prefer to be comfortable. But, the truth is, tension is what creates. And if you can't sit and hang with tension, you're not going to be able to create. And the tension that most people run away from is the tension of knowing what it is that they want to create and owning that. And then also having to sit with the reality of not having it, And so it's not a thing that's done self-consciously. We don't kind of go, oh, well, I'm not going to know that, so it makes my life easier. It's just, we try and protect ourselves, right? We try and protect ourselves from pain. We try and protect ourselves from that tension. And so we say, well, I don't know what I want, because it's so much easier to not know what you want than to say, well, I know what I want, but I don't think I'm capable of getting it, or I don't know how to get it, or I don't think it's ever going to happen. I'm going to have to deal with that. So we make up, all of these rationalizations for why we don't go for it, or why we don't know, when the kids have left school, when I have more time, when I have more money, if I win the lottery, then I'll do what I love. So we come up with all of these reasons and all these excuses, but it's just this cage around us. So unlocking the cage is understanding what your parameters are, what your constraints are, what your assumptions are, what your beliefs, assumptions and definitions are, what the bars of your cage are. Because the beauty of it is you don't need to do anything about it other than see it. Because there's nothing to fix. We're all whole. Inside that cage, we are whole spirits that know exactly what we want, the truth of what we want, and we have everything within us to create what we want, right? you know, there are so many self-development modalities out there that really are trying to tell people that they need fixing. You know, come to this workshop and learn how to procrastinate less, or learn how to be more this, or be more assertive, or whatever it is. And really, when I'm working with people to unlock the cage, it's just about reminding them that they already have everything within them, that there's nothing that needs fixing, and that everything they have to create the life they love is already there. And it's just recognizing how we are unconsciously holding ourselves back from, firstly, even knowing what that is, and then secondly, creating it effortlessly.
It's interesting. I told you right before we got on here that I was in a weird energy mood this morning, and that there was tension, and I know why there was tension. Yeah. So like, you're totally, okay. So you're opening my eyes to something that I did not want to sit in the tension today. And so, I did something to distract myself, to pull myself out of the tension. And I rationalized it because I knew that we had this talk and I wanted to be in this good space, right? When you and I connected today. So I got myself to a place where I could pull myself out of that tension as much as possible, so that I felt like, you know, this was my rationalization that you and I could have this good connection and this good energy today. And I know what that tension was around. That tension was around, well, there's some judgment of myself. And then there's also that I'm not doing enough during this quarantine to create the life I want. But then there's also tension around, I know I should be doing some of these things because I've got that tension there, right? But you need to sit in that tension, right, for this idea to move forward. Mm-hmm. So let's talk just a little bit about this this community that you've kind of created during this shelter in place. Mm-hmm. And what was your idea? What was your idea around that?
Mm-hmm. Actually, this is a great example, because I've had the creative tension for a while. Like, I talk about the 3 C's of creating. Yeah? You need choices, like what it is you're choosing to create, coaching, or a way to reflect back to you the things you're not seeing about yourself, and then community. You know, I think it's really important when you're on a journey, that you're on a journey with other people that you can learn with and train with and learn from, and are going to call you out on stuff, and that you have the same language as. You know, that, you know, when you come with a good idea, are not going to find all the reasons why it won't work. They're just going to go, hey, cool, if that's your truth, go for it. And likewise, are going to call you out if you are rationalizing, you know. So I think community is so important, which is why I started creating the kind of retreats to get people together. And I hadn't done one for a while because I'd created a group that I was teaching to be coaches as well. So the other side had fallen off. So I've had this creative tension for a while, knowing that I was choosing community, knowing that it was important, but it wasn't the right time, because you can also push, you know, my underlying belief, as you know, is needing to achieve, and I can make stuff happen and push stuff happen and get it there. And when I step back from that, like, things get created effortlessly at the right time. And we just had the announcement, I think it was on the Monday, that we were going into lockdown, or we weren't in lockdown yet, but they'd started to be more stringent. And I had a meeting with my coaches on that Monday, and we were doing what we call completion. It's just an understanding of kind of the week and what we've learned and what we've created, and looking at it intuitively and looking at what's true for us to create next. And it suddenly hit me, I'm like, now's the time to put something on for the community. And when I said, well, who's it true to do this for? Is it, you know, is it my clients? Is it my coaches' clients? It was just like, it's everybody you've ever worked with. Like, just send it out far and wide to everybody. And just start to get people together. And, you know, like yours, it'll evolve, because, you know, the ultimate intention is to have a structure that really serves people to stay in their highest vibration. With meditations and the exercises and a whole other bunch of things for people, maybe people who are in coaching or don't want to coach right now, but there's a structure there that can hold people in their highest. But it's been great, because I've known that's something I wanted to do. It's been an idea that's been there, and the tension has been building, and then suddenly it was like, okay, yeah, and it just dropped in. Yeah, so that's how it happened.
Yeah. That is awesome. And, you know, you're absolutely right. You want to resolve that tension, but it's the tension that pushes you forward into creation.
The trouble is when we resolve the tension, we tend to resolve the psychological tension. There's two tensions. There's like creative tension, which is the difference between the vision that we've actually owned and where we are now, and that, you know, that like, oh my God, this, how's that going to work? But that throws up a whole bunch of stuff. It throws up all our beliefs and assumptions about what's possible, and then we go about resolving the tension of that. So, you know, a lot of my vision was to go out and do this, right? I've always wanted to be back out on my own with my own business and be free to travel and have a business all over the world, which I do. But my internal system was sitting on my shoulder going, well, yes, but you need to have money in the bank to do that. You need to have passive sources of income. So I spent, you know, time and money going to like workshops on, what they call it, with houses. Property development. Oh, yeah. So not my thing, as you can tell, right? But it was the thing I thought I should do. Well, I have lost so much money trying to make money with property development because it's not my truth. It's not what I love to do. And so I'm never going to have the passion in it as someone is who it is their truth, right? Because there's no inherent right and wrong. All of our truths are different. And yeah, so I lost a ton of money of that until I realized that actually I just had to sit with that tension and go with what was obvious, which was actually just to start doing it. You know, not trying to get enough money in the bank, not trying to get myself in certain circumstances, was just to go do it. So I took 2 months off to go sailing, and started the business. And haven't looked back.
Why is it that we fall into such judgment of ourselves around, is it the society pressures that this is how it's supposed to look, so you have to have that money in the bank and you have to have that, the time and all of that? Is it societal pressures? Is it just kind of things that we've grown up conditioned to?
Yeah, it's a little bit of all of those. Like when we're really young, we just take on all the messages. Like before we're about 7, our brains are in a really kind of hypnotic state. You know, it's why we say kids are sponges, right? Because they just take everything in. So, you know, and it's not just the words we use, but if kids only get affection when they get good grades, for example, then they're learning that is what is going to get them affection. And so what we make up then about the world, and it's all made up, we make up that we're only going to get affection and validation in the world if we do well. So guess what we're going to do to resolve the tension of that? We're going to try and be successful and do well, right? And then you've got the society as well. So it's the family we grow up in, the values we grow up in. You know, I often ask people in workshops, you know, we do an exercise called good or bad. You know, what was good or bad in your household? And one of the questions I'll say to people is, you know, was it, you know, what was competitive in your household? And half the people put up their hands and go, like, we had to be competitive. Like, unless I was winning, I had to win, I had to be competitive. And then another group of people put their hands up and go, no, that was a bad thing in our household. Like, it was bad if you were over competitive. And then some people be like, what are you talking about? Like competition, you know, it just wasn't even a thing, right? And so though the area that we grow up in is going to form those definitions of our values. There's no intrinsic right or wrong. You know, there are some places in the world that think, you know, certain types of mutilation are good. You know, we think they're bad because that's the society we grew up in. But if you take you and put you in that society, you'd have a whole different set of values, right? But it is the messages, and so different countries have different value systems about things. You know, East, West. And so we take all of this because we're trying to make sense of the world, right? We're born and we are trying to orientate in this new place. It's like, you know, you move to a new town or you go on holiday somewhere and it's like, okay, well, where's the shop I get my breakfast from or my coffee from? And where's my hairdressers? And once you've orientated, you feel more comfortable. So we come into the world and we're on a mission to orientate and to make sense of the world. And so everything that happens to us, we have to make sense of. And because we're young and our brains aren't fully developed and we're just taking in all the messages and just recording everything that's told to us, we make up everything about the world in the way that it is. And then we think that it's reality. And then we start judging ourselves based on our perception of reality. And so, you know, we then continue that judgment all through our lives because we think that it's real. You know, we think that when we think something, like you were saying earlier, you know, well, I've got to put myself in a good space of mind. Well, I thought it, therefore it must be true. And it's not. Just because we think it, it's real. It feels real, right? Our feelings, our thoughts feel real, but they're not necessarily true.
Absolutely.
And so, but if we listen to them, we'll resolve the tension dysfunctionally if we're not aware of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I wasn't aware that I was resolving tension today. So, I mean, you know, yeah, it was just how I perceived that I thought that people would want to see me talk to somebody. So
Yeah.
interesting.
And that's the thing, right? We have these expectations, that's E of the cage. We have these expectations, what we think people are expecting from us as well.
Right.
And we make that more important than what we're trying to create.
Oh, you're absolutely right. Absolutely. I've, on my group, my Say Wild Child group, I've done a lot of work on, being real and being vulnerable, and maybe coming in at moments when, like I really didn't want, like my thinking mind was like, my thinking mind was saying, don't do it. But my intuition was saying, share this because it's gonna help someone, right? And so I most of the time will go from that intuition and that vulnerability place. But boy, this thinking mind of, you have to, have this certain energy when you're on screen, right? And that's the only way somebody will receive you. That's just a condition, right? That I've placed on myself, a judgment. So yeah.
I mean, we're so conditioned to think that we have to feel good all the time as well, and then we seek that emotional goodness, that emotional stability, and it's not creative. You don't need to be on top form the whole time, we're enjoying being humans as well.
Sure.
Yeah, and seeking that kind of feeling good the whole time can be detrimental in terms
it really
of
can. Yeah, truly can. Okay, so let's talk about, I love this. So your third choice, react, respond, and create. Yeah. And I'm just so you know, I'm muting so that you can't hear the kitchen cabinets being installed, but I am like jiving with you the whole time. I am totally listening, but I'm just like, I just figure it's best.
No worries. Yeah, I love this one. I call it the third choice, because people often come to me and say, hey, I've got two choices. Yeah, I can do this or I can do this. Can you help me decide which one to do? And I'm like, no. So I had a very dear client many years ago now come to me and say, I've got two choices. I can either put up with what's going on at work, or I can leave, and I need your help deciding which of those two things I do. And I'm like, well, there's a third choice. She's like, no, those are the two options. I'm like, oh, there's a third choice. She's like, no. I'm like, trust me, there is a third choice, which is creating what you want, because we think it comes back to, we don't know, we can't have what we want, right? We think we have to take an option of the things that are there. And we don't. We can just go, what would I love to create? And so she did. We worked on what she actually wanted to create, and she's actually still there, and she's had many promotions since, and she's doing absolutely amazingly. She's great relationships, but she had to understand what it was that was holding her back in that space, and realize that there was another choice. And so that's why I call the third choice. So every single time we are sat trying to decide between two choices, we're in our cage. We're setting our goals for ourselves somewhere within our cage, somewhere that we think is possible based on our current circumstances. And I just go, forget the current circumstances. You've been in a meditation where we step out of our circumstances and we go, but what would we love?
Right.
Because most people create based on their circumstances, and actually creators create based on what they would love, and that unlocks the magic.
Why do you think it is that why is there resistance around asking ourselves these questions? Like, why is there resistance in like, I'll be honest with you, just really in the last year, my word was intention. And so like living in intention, but asking myself those questions. And I feel like I've been, stepping into my power, and I'm a pretty creative person. And I feel like, I'm, moving forward, yet I'll still get stuck in asking myself those questions. And I guess that's why you're saying there's a community that it's so helpful to have a community, because you're always reminded to ask yourself the freaking questions, right? Maybe I'm answering the question myself, but go ahead.
Well, and they remind me, and my coach reminds me, right? I think it's really important, if you're a coach, to be coached as well, to, keep taking your game up to the next level. And I think there's two answers to that, right? One is, again, we don't want to know the answers because then we have to deal with that disparity. Yeah. Owning it and going, yes, that is what I want. It throws up stuff for us, right? Because then I go, well, maybe I can't have it. Maybe I'm never going to have it. What if I don't deserve it? I'm not good enough to have it. Like, no one's ever gonna, I'm not lovable enough, whatever it is for us, right? We've all got a combination of all of them. But because deep down, right, that cage, that vehicle of orientation, our ego, our identity, it's our instinct, right? And instinct is trying to keep us safe. And so anything that is going to upset the balance it's deemed not to be safe, right? And you know, we're soothed if we cry, you know, it's so often like if someone, you know, if someone's in pain, we're not good at sitting with people in pain. You know, we'll say, well, at least, you know, at least we're getting to do this in lockdown. At least this is going on, right? You know, someone dies, well, at least they were old, they had a good life, you know, whatever it is. We can't just be with people in pain because we can't be with our own pain. And so anything that is going to cause pain, we think is bad. We've defined in our society as bad, you know. But in some societies, it's not, you know, it's like the overthrow of emotion and, you know, throw yourselves on the burning pyre in emotion kind of thing. It's not, emotion's not bad. And so people work through it in a different way. But we don't like to ask ourselves the questions because we know underneath, we know what the answer is. And we know that that answer is not going to be one that we like. So we lie to ourselves to make life easier, to, you know, to make life be without pain, to be without tension. You know, and
a lot of avoidance.
Yeah, and we're all on that journey, right? You know, we're all absolutely on that journey because we, you know, I still see it as like it's levels of a video game. Like you do level 1, you're like, ha, yes, got you. That thought, I know you. You're not coming back in again. You get onto the next level, and then you know we talk about the dragons. You know, if you're familiar with the hero's journey, the dragon comes back in and it's in a different coat and it's a different color, and it's like, oh, cool, red dragon this time, bang, and it whacks you over and you're like, oh, you got to get up and go, oh no, I know you, and then you go to the next level. But every level you collect like gold coins and you collect ways to recognize what's going on, and some of those, like you said, a community. Some of those I've had some of my clients turn around some things and go, is that really what you want to do, or are you just thinking that we want you to do that? And I'm like, oh, you know, because we all go to sleep. It's like we're a fish in water. Like a fish doesn't know it's in water until you take it out of water. And that's the same for us, right? We're just swimming around in it thinking that this is real until we realize that actually it's not. But we still, you know, we still like to fall asleep at times.
Yeah, we do. We do for sure. Yeah, we do for sure. And I know we all do it, you know? Yeah. You just kind of keep on. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because then we start judging ourselves for it, you know?
Oh, totally. Oh, yeah, I'm in judgment mode right now.
Yeah, exactly. And then that just becomes another cat o' nine tails to, you know, flagellate ourselves with. And it just, that keeps us in that vibration, right? It's so, sure. Our ego, our resistance will do everything it can to keep us in that lower vibration. And it will use whatever tools it can. And so, you know, when I first learned about identity, I'm like, great, now I have to do everything to stay out of my identity and just be in spirit and just be with my genius. And the trouble is trying to stay out of something just keeps you straight back in it, you know, because what we avoid, we just end up recreating through, you know, a few different ways. But
right.
Yeah. And so I spent, you know, time creating things and getting better at creating, but also kind of holding myself back because kept trying to be out of my identity. And now I'm like, I have my identity the same as everyone else, and she likes to come out and play occasionally, and that's just fine, you know.
So identity is ego, correct?
Yeah. So there's different types of it. Some people call it identity, some people call it ego, some people call it instinct. I quite like instinct at the moment because it really, you know, there's a definition of instinct that is actions mediated below the conscious level. And I think that is so important because all these behaviors are unconscious, and Carl Jung said it, right? Until you make the unconscious conscious, it directs your life and you will call it fate. And so it's about making those unconscious things conscious. And then, like I said, once you've made it conscious, it just changes its color and you make it conscious again. And it's just an ever evolving journey. And I think that's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of being on the journey and the beauty of being human. We're not trying to get away from our ego, from our identity. It's what makes us us, you know, it's what makes us human. Yeah.
Totally, totally. Yes. Yeah, you're absolutely right, because, like I said, I made that word intention my word last year. And so I was intentional about being an intention. So, and now I'm more conscious of it. I won't say it's an all the time thing, but I definitely am more conscious of it. And my word this year was celebrate. It probably should have been like question, like ask yourself the questions, because that is something that, I find myself, I'm like, wait a minute, I know to do that. But it's just kind of this, it's just this, this level of consciousness that I think that I'm just trying to be more aware of and opening up to. So it'll come.
Yeah, but then we recognize we're not, and then you have two choices at that point. You just go, okay, cool, I'm choosing to ask myself the questions, or I'm going to beat myself up for not asking the questions. And if you beat yourself up, you just end up back in the, it's like falling, you slide all the way back down the, the snake, if you like, you played snakes and ladders. Whereas, if you start asking questions, you just go back up the next ladder. And,
right.
I came up with a phrase about a couple of years ago, I guess, which was, to not angst backwards, don't angst backwards, just create forwards. Go, hey, that happened. I created it. I know I create everything. So I created that crap happening, but there's no point me staying in that vibration. I'm just going to turn forwards and create forwards. And then you get out of it, and everything that needs to get resolved will get resolved through that.
I need that on a t-shirt. Don't angst backwards, create forward. I think I'm definitely going to put that on my bathroom mirror. It's a great reminder, just like it's just right there in front of you. Yeah, it's really great. I like it. It's an Ellenism.
Well, I've got a whole bunch of post-it notes that you can't see in the front here that remind me of the things to catch myself doing, like right and wrong thinking and judging myself and all of these different things.
Absolutely, yeah.
To remind me.
Yes. So what is the fastest way to take yourself out of creative orientation?
There's a few different ways to take ourselves out. I think we've just talked about one of them, right? Beating ourselves up and judging ourselves. Every time we're in that energy, we're out of the creative orientation. Comparing ourselves to others, and that's a big one I see happening right now. What's happening for everyone else in lockdown or shelter in place, whatever the different countries are calling it. What are other countries doing? Sweden got it right, as it was Germany, and wanting to be right is the other one, right? Needing to be right. Because needing to be right is just, you're trying to prove yourself. You're not focusing on what you want to create. You're just trying to prove yourself, and we'll all try and prove ourselves in different ways, right? But
right.
there's a lot of people out there right now that are trying to be right, and the truth is, no one knows, right? None of us know, but everyone's out there trying to be right, trying to vie for their viewpoint, and putting themselves then in battles, over Facebook and other places, of this viewpoint versus this point versus this viewpoint. And so that's one way. And needing to know, when you need to know, it's our needing to know and our needing to make sense that created our identity in the first place.
Sure.
Created our safety mechanism. So the easiest way to let go of them is to step out of needing to know.
Right.
And the fastest way to put ourselves back in there is needing to know. And that's what everyone is struggling with a lot right now, because we don't know when we're going to be out of lockdown. We don't know how bad this is. We don't know what the world's going to look like afterwards, right? And so people are seeking orientation. They're seeking that need to know, dysfunctionally, based on their own, unique fear-based responses. Trying to be happy, ignoring it, buying up toilet roll, whatever it is at the moment, right? And but it's just everyone's attempt to feel safe.
Yeah, you see some. I was super ambitious when I began, and I put in this garden, and it was a lot of work. And then I'm like, oh, my husband's like, well, clean out the shed. So we cleaned out the shed, and then we started purging. And then now he's irritated because we haven't finished the garage. We're halfway done, but we haven't finished it. And he's like, what is this garage? You gotta get done. But and then you're like, oh, screw it. I'd rather just do this. And then there's some who are still working their total full-time jobs, and now their children are home, and they're just like, oh my gosh, this is so much work, And then there's others of us I mean, we laid in bed and watched a Netflix series last night, like the whole thing. So he goes, do you think anybody else is doing this? And I go, yeah. But there's this, it's this constant, you're right. It's this constant of what's the right decision, right? And so I think probably there's a lot more tension at this moment of what's the right decision. And so I appreciate you creating that space, for us to be able to come in and talk, because, right, it's what's right for you, right?
And it's based on what it is that you want to create ultimately, right? Because again, if we're creating based on our circumstances, we're looking at this going, oh, what can I do in the circumstances? I've got to clean out the shed. I've got to do this. I should learn a new skill. All of the shoulds, the guilts, the shoulds. And what are people going to think about me if I come out of 3, 4, 6 weeks in lockdown and the house isn't better, and the truth is there's no right or wrong, but it's connecting into what we truly would love to create in life, and let that be our guide. Because when we're connected into that space, we will become aware of information that's going to serve us. I had a great definition of intuition the other day, which was around, intuition tells you what to pay attention to, and everyone's out there seeking information, seeking knowledge to try and be right, to try and make sense of all this, to try and understand it. And we just need to let go of that. And if we let go of that and go instead to what we want to create, then we will become aware of the information that we need. We process something like 4 billion bits of information, but we're only self-conscious of 2,000 of them. And those 2,000 that we're self-conscious of is based on our underlying structures, our underlying thoughts, assumptions, definitions. It's like a filter. But when you're connected into what you want to create, you see outside of that 2,000. And so you see things that you wouldn't have seen before. And that's how we get to create effortlessly and magically. Because it's there, we just hadn't seen it before.
Yeah, absolutely. This is this Stay Wild Child episode 20, these broadcasts that I've been doing, and I'm still trying to think of a cool name for them. But it's been so incredible for me, because I've gotten to connect with really so many just truly amazing women that all have these little jewels and these little gifts and these little nuggets that they impart on, my community and their community. And so I feel just really blessed that to have, I thought, a few years ago, I remember this story that I told myself, that I didn't have anyone in my life that, any women that I had that I could have really, deep conversations. It wasn't just surface level, type of, hair and nails. And I love hair and nails, but, I love that. I love fashion. I'm a fashion girl. But, I felt like I didn't have anyone that I could, really connect with and have these great, just really meaty conversations with. And it's interesting. When I first started this, I started this back in October, and I thought, oh, I wonder if I have enough people to talk to. Well, I've kind of let go of that. And it's interesting. These amazing women kind of just keep flowing into my life and into my path, and they just keep showing up. It's just magic. They just keep appearing. And I'm like, wow, I love the awareness and the celebration of that. I got a whole lot of badass women in my life, so I love it. So I so appreciate you. So let's talk just a little bit, kind of as we're wrapping up. What are some things that are on the burner for you? What are I'm assuming, well, you're coaching coaches now, right? So yep. You've created a coaching, leadership academy, or I don't know, what do you call it?
Yes, an academy. So I've created a program to support people on their coaching journey. So like a lot of people find themselves naturally inspiring others because they're living differently, they're living more magically, and some of those really just get called or realize it's their truth to actually support others more one-on-one. either as coaches or facilitators as well, you know, through trainings as well. So it was just suddenly became obvious to put on a coaching program, an accreditation program. So I have 2 levels right now: certified coach and an accredited facilitator. So I have 2 certified coaches and 1 nearly soon to be accredited facilitator, and other people on the program. And yeah, so that's been a real joy in the last kind of like year to 18 months to put that together and to support people on that journey. And so that's going now, and now we're starting to kind of go back to the beginning and do more to reach more people. So I think I talked to you about this online program.
You did, yes. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so at the moment it's a 6-week program, and starting on the 3rd of May. So we're beta testing on the 3rd of May.
Oh, yes. This is perfect timing.
Perfect timing, yeah.
Yeah, girl, good.
So yeah, we're looking for about 8 people right now. I think we've got probably about 4 or 5 signed up right now. And again, just like magically, I got called to do this video challenge, 5-day video challenge. And one of the videos I just said, hey, we're doing this and sign up. And it was a call to action video, like off the cuff video. And I had someone sign up for that. So I was like, oh, okay, magic. So yeah, so putting that on, so we're beta testing that now, and that'll be over 6 weeks. And then the idea is to make that kind of more frequent, and we're playing with different ways of delivering that. But it's an introductory course called Unlock the Cage. So it's really understanding what it is that's holding you back, and also showing people how, I call it shifting, how to shift out of that into a higher vibration, into creating what you want in the moment and for your life as well. So
right.
So working on that too. And then off the back of that, there'll be another program called Creative Living Program, which would be, you know, taking people into, for those who want to go into even more depth, taking people into it in a lot more depth. And then, you know, we've got coaching programs going on, and whole bunch of stuff coming out soon. But.
So incredible. So for those of you who don't know, Ellen is do you call yourself a sailor?
Oh yeah, yes.
Okay. Are you is that the correct term, a sailor?
I sail, therefore, yes, sailor.
You sail, okay. I'm like, what? And so, yeah, so I'm sure that you are missing some water at this moment. Yeah. And so so we'll end on just kind of a fun note. Tell me about either your latest sailing adventure, you know, before we went into shelter in place, or maybe one of your most memorable ones.
Oh, well, I've got a boat in England with a friend of mine, a fellow coach, down a couple of hours away, but she's been out the water since kind of October time. So we haven't. We had a couple of memorable moments last summer swimming off the boat, and we're learning how to be skippers. So we both sail quite a bit. We're learning how to be skippers. So it was our first moment last summer where we anchored the boat and then left the boat and went into the shore and spent the whole time looking at it nervously. Has it moved? Has it moved? Has it moved? But yeah, I've had some very memorable moments. Well, one of them was seeing manta rays jumping up out of the water and and just hammerhead sharks.
I got chills all over.
Yeah, so there's been some interesting moments. I've been very lucky. I've been very blessed, created some amazing moments on boats, and particularly one catamaran I sailed with for many months over the last few years. And it was just a beautiful moment. Lots of moments. Yeah.
I love your play and your creation, because that's really where it's all at. And what an inspiration. I love Brene Brown. You know, she calls it, instead of a midlife crisis, she calls it a midlife becoming. And I know a lot of ladies in this group, we're all around that whatever age, in the middle-ish. And so, but we've it's any time, right? You can step into that creative power, and then look at this. You've just really created this amazing, incredible life. And thank you so much for sharing your magic with us. And I am excited about this May 3rd class. And so whenever we get off, of course, in the comments, I'll share all of Ellen's information with you. But in addition, we'll post this up on YouTube, and I'll share the information there as well. And I really appreciate you, Ellen. Thank you so much for coming on Stay Wild Child today. And
Oh,
I know that it was, I like these. I like these because they really, every time I learn something, and I realized straight away at the beginning of this, yeah, I was trying to resolve that tension, and then I stepped into judgment, and now it's just time to get back into play, and then turn on my creative and ask myself some questions. So I appreciate you, girl. You're amazing.
thank you so much. It's so fun to
Yeah,
come on. Appreciate it.
thank you. All right. Well, I will see you on Wednesday.
I will see you on Wednesday.
Have an awesome rest of your day. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.